may be available, not available today. Thank you very much. Mr. Weezar is in budget meeting downstairs and probably will not be able to make it up, but we're going to go through it. So, some items will be continued, but we'll move on some things as we go forward. Maria Espinoza is our city clerk, and if you could tell us what's on item number 1, please.
Item 1 is a Bureau of Engineering status report relative to the establishment of Los Angeles River Special Projects Office and a City Planning Department progress report on the implementation of the Los Angeles River Revitalization Master Plan.
And remind if anyone wants to speak to any item, you got to fill out a card. And I run 1-minute public comments in my committees, but if you need more time, you could go more time. So, but you could take as much time because you're with the City Engineer's Office. Go on.
Thank you. Thank you, Councilman. Larry Hsu with Bureau of Engineering, LA River Project Office. This is the progress report for June to August 2009. These are just a few of the items we have in our written report. Under river management, for the River MOU, the River MOU sets up a River Cooperation Committee which reviews upcoming projects. The River MOU has been executed, and the first meeting of the River Cooperation Committee is in the process of being scheduled for sometime in November. Under the River Master Use Agreement, discussions are ongoing with the county. The next meeting is scheduled for September 30th. For the LA River Ecosystem Restoration Feasibility Study, which is a core feasibility study for the LA River, we are still in the process of renegotiating the project management plan, which will focus on the Arbor, which is a stretch of the river from Verdugo Wash to downtown. We've received a draft schedule for this remaining portions of the study, and has a number of milestones that extends to December 2011. Now, in order for the study to be completed by that date, full funding has to be received from the federal government. At this time, it's not confirmed. The House has approved $1.5 million, which is our full request. The Senate has approved much less, $100,000. And we are waiting for the results of a conference committee process to know how much we'll actually get. The mayor has sent letters to Senator Feinstein, Boxer, and Representative Roybal Allard, thanking them for their past support.
Hey, Larry, do you have any relationship with any of those offices? Like, do you know anybody, a deputy in Ms. Feinstein's or Ms. Boxer's office? Or who do we bird dog, so to speak?
Yeah.
All right, Carol.
Carol.
Hi, Councilman Labange. Carol Armstrong from the Bureau of Engineering, LA River Project Office. In Congresswoman Roybal Allard's office, they've been very supportive.
All right.
Thank you. Here, we've been working with Kimberly Tajiki.
Great.
We've also, back in April, we visited Washington, and we met with the Chief of Staff, Paul Cunningham, who visited here as well, and Victor Castillo. In Senator Boxer's office, we have worked with Lynn Abramson, and we have had some contacts through the Army Corps of Engineers with Ryan Hunt in Senator Feinstein's office.
Great. So that's good. So you and personal relations are all key in that.
Yes.
All right. Keep going, Larry.
All right. Under the category of
Carol.
river projects, the Alvin Dairy parcel has been approved for purchase by the Propo Administrative Oversight Committee. This parcel is between Spring Street and Main Street along the river, and it's the first step in eventually developing the site into a park.
What it cost?
I don't know if that's been determined.
Have we bought it yet?
I wasn't really a part of the process.
Yes,
Well, yeah.
we have just completed agreements. Charles Modica is our representative for Propo.
Hi, Councilman LeBlanc. Charles Modica from the CLA's office. The city has actually reached an agreement with the seller of the property. However, not all the details are not yet completely finalized. It still needs to be run through council. And so until that point at which it comes before council, we'd request that figures be presented to you only in closed session.
Got it. I got it. Okay, good. Oh, that's all right, Larry.
Lisa Creek Confluence and Reseda River.
Most important addition to the river to me is that area. I think it's a real asset to try to capture that land, especially in combining Downey Park and Playground to that. Yes.
Aliso Creek Confluence and Reseda River Loop project is moving forward. We'll be seeking Proposition 84 funds, and TPL and MRCA will.
Where's that creek?
It's in the valley.
It's located in Council District 3, and the confluence is located just west of west of Wilbur, south of Van Owen, and east of Reseda, and north of Victory.
So this is not the Bell of Calabasas Creek, this is a Liso Creek?
That's right. This is downstream
So
from
downstream.
there. It's just upstream of Reseda Park.
Right, okay, good.
The Sunny Hoc River Park and North Atwater Park projects. These are two projects that are being managed with BOE and are at or near design completion. The next step will be starting the bid and award phase. We've sent a letter to the state to try to confirm funding on these projects, given the state's current condition, and we're waiting for responses from them on those.
You know whose district that's in there, Larry?
Well, yeah, there's no CD.
All right, there's
They're
Kathy
both in
Kim right
yours,
there.
Councilman.
Yeah,
Look over your right shoulder, or left shoulder. See Kathy Kim right there. She's my deputy. She's got to help you work with the state so we can expedite. So a month turns, so 3 months, 4 months turns into a month instead of it. Because before you know it, it's going to be October 1st,
Yeah, it's coming up.
The year's gone fast. Okay.
All right. We're also working with the Department of Rec and Parks to identify additional river projects to include on list of Proposition 84 grant applications.
Uh-huh.
Under external activities, on June 2nd, we met with Paul Cunningham, Chief of Staff of Congresswoman Lucille Roel Allard. On July 22nd, we met with Terrence Rocksalt, Acting Secretary of the Army, Civil Works. And on July 28th, we conducted 2 public workshops to solicit input into future federal projects. And on that topic, I'd like to thank everybody who participated in the workshops. It was very successful. We had a turnout of approximately 100 participants in the afternoon session and 60 participants in the evening session. We've developed notes from these workshops, and we'll be posting those in the next day or two on the lariver.org website. And if you subscribe to the ad hoc committee notifications, you'll also be notified that way. And that's it.
Very good. Any complaints, Larry?
No complaints.
All right, good. Carol?
Nope, we're good.
All right, so I'm going to
Next
just
one
ask.
is the Planning Department.
Planning Department, please.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Lupe.
Good afternoon, Councilman Deborah Cahan, Planning Department. I have 2 status updates for you. The first regarding the Cornfield Arroyo Seco specific plan. Following the release of our draft plan and the initial study in March of this year, the consultant has since been preparing our administrative draft EAR, and the draft EIR for public review and comment, as well as the CASP plan, will be available in early 2010. The second project to update you on is the Los Angeles River the Los Angeles River Improvement Overlay, LA Rio. That is currently under review in the City Attorney's Office for form and legality, and we're hoping to move that forward before council in the near future.
Great. And for you and engineering, all these updates are on your websites so the public can know about it? Carol?
They are the City Council website.
On the City Council website?
They're on the LA River website. At the end of this, we upload them after these meetings.
Right, but whose website is it? Is it
The Ad Hoc River Committee has its own website.
a website? Okay,
Yeah.
good. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Where'd you go to school?
I went to USC.
USC, okay. I just want to know, I thought maybe you went to, Cal Poly or something. No, I'll ask you next time, Carol. Don't laugh. Okay, good. Very good. Not too many Trojans here, Okay, that's all right. That's all right. I like the university. It's a great game on Saturday night. All right, this completes item 1?
Yeah.
All right, very good. Thank you, staff. And staff, use your city resources. We're going to go into a darker period of time due to the overall budget and economies that face us, so relationships mean everything. So constant contact, obviously, to council office, to Mr. Reyes' office, my office, Mr. Weezer, anybody could help will help. Thank you.
To
The action of the committee?
To action on the committee is to note and file.
Okay, we're going to note and file.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, item number 2.
For item number 2, the City Administrative Officer is reporting. This is a quarterly status update on the river revitalization projects.
All right.
Lori Hancock, CIO.
Yes.
I went to UCLA.
Good job. That's all right. They did good at Tennessee.
Okay, this report is basically a summary of the river-related projects that have been undertaken by the city. There are 41 projects currently. 28 of them are bridges, and the rest of them are parks and bike paths and riparian restoration and that sort of thing. There's an attachment in here which is actually a component of the budget. It's in the CIEP component, and it is included in there for informational purposes. So there's about $1 billion in projects of the 41 ongoing projects.
Of the four, how many are bridges?
28.
But how much of that of the billion is that, you think?
697.
697.
is total. 31 of that is anticipated to be expended on bridges this year. So that's a lot of that is coming from the Highway Bridge Program and being leveraged by Seismic Bond and a number of other projects, Prop C, Caltrans, and the like. These dollars are coming from all different funding sources, and they are administered by various departments throughout the city. So this is just a compilation of what the city is doing.
Right.
So that's basically
Good.
it.
Staff, any questions? Yeah. Any questions from CLA? What do you foresee in the future? And none of this is general fund money, right?
No.
Right, all that. That's good. And what's been our response with the state? Because their problems. I know the previous speaker spoke about.
I know that in March and April, they actually were able to sell bonds, and I think they sold about $16 billion in bonds. And so they did open up the projects. So there are the 12 and 40 projects, and the 50 projects have, most of them have been approved to go forward.
Right.
Now, we're not sure what's going on with all of those projects as far as whether they will be able to be refunded. Most of the state projects are money's provided on a reimbursement basis. So we're looking at and watching and making sure that they have the funding that they need. They have assured us that they will be able to refund the monies that we expended, but we will need to cash flow them, and so we don't know the time frame of when those are going to be reimbursed.
Okay. Well, thank you very much. Thank you very much.
Do you wish to notify of this as well?
Yeah, note and file. Okay, item 3.
On item 3, there is an oral report by the Chief Legislative Analyst, and this is related to federal and state funding as it relates to economic recovery and legislative policies.
Afternoon, Council Member. Charles Monaco with the CLA's office.
Right.
Our office was asked to provide a brief update to this committee on federal and state funding as it relates to economic recovery or stimulus bill funding projects in the context of the LA River and projects in the Los Angeles River watershed. To begin with, I would like to note that the city has, in general, been very proactive in applying for grant funding for its environmental projects, including projects that impact the Los Angeles River. As part of this, the city has been developing or has developed several larger master plans that detail the city's overall objectives on larger watershed-based levels. Examples of these plans include the Integrated Regional Watershed Management Plan, the city's Water Quality Compliance Master Plan, and this committee's own Los Angeles River Revitalization Master Plan. Each of these plans details potential projects and the opportunity areas in the city in the context in which they fit in a larger objective that the city has. And we also believe these plans help the city when it does go out to seek grant funding for the projects that are detailed within them. For the specific item on your agenda, we are prepared to break down a brief summary of the both federal funding goals that we have and state funding for river projects. For federal funding, since roughly the beginning of this year, the city has been convening a working group consisting of various members of city departments, council offices, the mayor's office, to look at federal stimulus money for environmental projects. That group examines projects that are proposed for stimulus funding, and it recommends submission of those projects for funding based on 3 primary criteria. Those criteria are whether or not a project has a high degree of project readiness. If it's shovel-ready, projects are given more priority, whether or not projects either create or retain jobs, and whether or not projects will advance existing goals and policies of the city council and the mayor. Those first 2 priorities are actual stimulus bill priorities. The federal government wants us to be pursuing projects that are shovel-ready and that will provide jobs, and that's why they are so highly ranked in our categories. Now, projects that group deems meet those qualifications are then sent to the City Council's Committee on the Recovery Act of the Stimulus Bill, and that committee then decides whether or not to forward those applications to the federal government.
And a written report?
It's notes.
No, it's okay, keep going.
Sure. To date, the group has identified several projects in those categories, and they include the expansion of the North Atwater Park, Los Angeles River bikeways.
Expansion of the Atwater, what do you mean by that?
It's a retrofit and expansion of the North Atwater Park to include more best management practices that relate to improving water quality and stormwater
The
runoff.
North Atwater part, that's the culvert, that's the Chevy Chase storm drain that's there, that's what you're speaking of?
I believe it's up around there, yes.
Right, not the actual the Glendale, Los Angeles water reclamation plant.
Right.
Just talk about the water that runs from the street, storm drain system through there.
Yes. And I'd also like to note that stimulus funding has been awarded to the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers to work along the Los Angeles River, and this includes roughly $6.5 million for removal of graffiti and cleanup of the river, and an additional $1.5 million farther downstream to do some dredging and cleanup around the river's mouth in the Long Beach area. As far as state funding, I have a little bit less to report because, as the CEO just reported, at the end of last year, most state grant funding was frozen. These include state propositions 12, 40, 50, and 84. We're hearing that the state is beginning to unfreeze its bonds, and it will begin refunding the city for invoices submitted to it. But we have not heard yet when they'll be opening up those bonds for applications for new projects. As per usual, we would be more than happy to keep this committee informed of the city's status in its grant applications as it relates to both federal and state bonds, and we're
Right.
more than happy to answer any.
Let me ask you a technical question. Let's say this is the river right below us there, and it probably costs you more to clean it there than it costs you to clean it on a city street, right?
Right.
You just think that there. Why can't we use any money to improve street cleaning and curb gutter debris removal? Have you ever looked at that?
I know that we've looked at that in the context of Proposition O. I don't know if anyone's looked at it in the
Yeah, what do they say when you're all around?
Everyone thought it was a good idea. I think it was an issue of getting the Bureau of Street Services and Bureau of Sanitation, everyone to work together to make sure that things are...
But they say there's something in the law or the Prop O or something like that.
Well, for Proposition No, all monies need to be used for capital improvement projects. That's not necessarily the case with these bonds.
Well, let me ask you, if it costs you, let's say, $1 million to have street cleaners work, it costs you $50 million to put a system in the river. You ever been down in the river?
I have not been in it, but
I'll take you there.
I
Okay.
see it every day on the train.
I'll take you. You see it on the train, so you know it. Where you live?
I actually live in North Orange County.
Okay, so you look on the right side when you're coming in, you see it all.
Yep.
It's horrible, but I think if we do an aggressive job of trying to remove debris, our storm drains that are some 96 inches wide, cardboard, boxes, trash, and debris and all that stuff, but if we could keep it out of the system, I think there's a way to try to improve that. So I'll meet you at Union Station one morning, and I'll take you over there.
Okay.
Okay. Thank you. Staff have any questions?
No, thank you.
Okay, well, thank you for your work. Okay. We're going to note and file that, right?
There's no action on this.
Okay, good. No one's
No.
filled out a card for public comment. I believe in the Constitution, so no one wants to speak. So when this agenda item is complete, if you don't fill out a card, you can't speak. So if anybody wants to speak, fill out a card. Next item.
Item number 4 is an oral presentation by the California High-Speed Rail Authority. This is relative to plans for the Anaheim to Los Angeles rail routes and Los Angeles to Palmdale rail routes.
Okay, yes, Libby, did you have something you want to say? Right, okay, good.
Good afternoon.
Great. And has anyone ever seen this presentation before in the audience? You raise your hand, so some are familiar with it. Okay. Good, okay. Good, so you could roll through it. Yeah.
Okay. I got that.
Good.
No. No, come on.
Go ahead, please, and introduce yourself for the record.
This is Valerie. I am Valerie Martinez. I'm Director of Communications for Southern California for the California High-Speed Rail Authority.
And I'm Bruce Armstead, Regional Manager for California High-Speed Rail Authority.
There are a lot of exciting things happening with the California High-Speed Rail Authority right now. We are in the poised right now, getting ready to get our application submitted within the next few weeks. So in addition to the bond that was passed in November, we will have hopefully some stimulus funds coming in. Just a little background on high-speed rail. The high-speed rail is an 800-mile system connecting major cities throughout the state. It's steel wheel on steel rail. It is 100% clean electric power with maximum operating speeds in excess of 200 miles per hour. Oops. Here are some of our annual boardings for selected stations. You see LA Union Station there at $10.8 million per year by 2030. Economic benefits to LA County. This is definitely a jobs program. We are looking to create 54,800 jobs by 2020 and more than 96,000 jobs by 2035. And some of our project history. As I said, at the very top, you have the fact that we are looking to acquire some ARA funds. President Obama earlier this year designated $8 billion nationwide for high-speed rail in particular. The High-Speed Rail Authority actually was created in 1996. From 2002 to 2005, we actually completed our program-level EIR-EIS, which basically identified the footprint of the project, specifically which cities it would go through. In 2007, we began scoping and for the project level EIR-EIS, which is where we're currently at. This gives a general overview of our environmental process. As you can see right now with the yellow box, we are still pretty early in the process looking at project definition. We have just completed our alternatives analysis. And that gives you a sense of the work that we have done thus far through our project level EIR-EIS. And that includes a lot of outreach to various communities, to elected officials, and to various agencies to ensure that we're coordinating. Project funding, this gives you a sense of our project funding. OCTA was one of the first agencies to sign on as a financial partner in 2007, contributing more than $7 million. Again, we have a bond that has been approved, $9.95 billion, which was approved in November, and again, we are looking for those ARA funds. This is the federal ARA deadline. This provides a sense of what the ARA deadlines are. October 2009 is when we will be applying for our application, when we will be submitting our application. September 2011 is when we are expected to have a record of decision with our EIR-EIS. September 2012, we need to begin construction, and by September 2017, we need to have our project complete. Now,
between Anaheim and Los Angeles.
Between Anaheim and Los Angeles. Specifically, we are applying for 3 sections: Anaheim, Los Angeles, Bakersfield, Merced, San Jose, San Francisco.
Who's going to apply in between those towns?
Well, what we're looking for is specifically matching funds. That's specifically the ARA funds. The state funding will also work to provide the construction funds as well as the P3 funds for those areas.
P3 means public-private partnership.
Correct.
Right, okay.
Correct. So we have a whole plan, sir. Joe Biden, this is a quote from him. It's
Vice President Joe Biden.
Vice President Joe Biden. He is, we have been noticed as, in California as a state who's definitely leading the charge on high-speed rail. So we're very excited.
Okay.
These are the AA evaluation measures that kind of lay out exactly what some of the issues are that we've been looking at as we've been developing our alternatives. And with this, I'm going to...
An overview of the Los Angeles to Anaheim to Los Angeles section. That map shows our complete system. The lower right-hand corner shows the section that we're working on right now. We've broken our section up into 3. Anaheim to Fullerton, which is about 50 feet wide. Fullerton to Hobart, 100 feet wide. And then from Hobart Yard up to Los Angeles Union Station, where we run along the river. This slide shows the Los Angeles River area and some of the features of that: BNSF storage tracks, the Amtrak for 8th Street Yard, where our trains will come in from San Diego, and a few alternatives that were included in the program level EIR-EIS. Those are our options along the river. We had the existing conditions, upper left-hand corner, aerial option, lower left-hand corner, the at-grade option, lower right-hand corner. The aerial option we will not be carrying forward due to historic and visual impacts. The at-grade option is the alignment that goes over 4th Street and under 1st Street and under 4th. Requires a shift of the existing low sand tracks, and we will be relocating the storage tracks that are currently used by BNSF.
We have actually, over the course of this project, looked at 7 different options for station location in downtown LA. These are those 7: Los Angeles Union Station, an aerial structure; LA River West Bank, LA Union Station Deep Tunnel; Los Angeles Union Station South, LA River East Station, LA Union Station South, a stub configuration, and then the cornfield site.
Are you studying any of these?
We have studied all of them.
And what is your suggested?
Well, what we did is in our program level, we studied all of them with the exception of the deep tunnel. We carried forth the first 2 to our project level and added the LA Union Station deep tunnel, which is why the first 3 are bolded. At the project level, we have done extensive analysis of the top 3, and the one that we are moving forward at this point is the LA Union Station aerial.
Now, you're a recipient of a letter from the planning department.
We are.
Could you answer that letter at some time in the next 30 days or something?
Well, what we did is we actually did, within the last week, send a letter to the planning department, and we did copy the entire city council as well as the rest of the city departments that kind of outlines the various issues. Specifically, what the letter was requesting is that we continue to move forward the LA River West Bank option. And what the letter basically outlines is the fact that the issues that initially caused us to take that station out of the draft EIS. None of those issues have changed. And so at this point, we're asking that the city reconsider the position, especially in light of, and I'm actually going to read this part because it comes from our Attorney General's office.
Yeah, here's the letter.
Will you give it to the clerk then?
Reopening further consideration of alternate Los Angeles station location options could have potentially severe negative ramifications, including jeopardizing the authority's schedule for the timely completion of the project EIS for the LA Anaheim and LA Palmdale sections, jeopardizing the potential for receiving ARA federal stimulus funding for a portion of the LA Anaheim section as a result of schedule delay, and raising questions as to funding under Proposition 1A, which refers to LA Union Station.
Okay. So we got a copy. Is this one copy or is this?
That is one copy.
That is the copy for you,
That's
sir.
a copy. So if you want to make a copy,
I'll be,
so we could have a copy, but you still, maybe give me your advice afterwards. Keep going and running through that as if you're a high-speed rail, but with respect to all the passengers here.
Yeah.
Okay?
Hi, Paul. All right, next slide, please. Project overview. That's some of the features around existing Union Station. The red fishhook is the way they come in now. The lighter blue line is the alignment we're proposing to carry forward in our alternative analysis. The green bubble shows where the run-through tracks would be. The lime green line shows the West Bank station that we've looked at, and the alignments going out toward Palmdale. Those are the station options. We decided not to carry forward the West Bank option and the deep tunnel option, and we will be carrying forward the elevated above the existing Union Station option. This is the study area from State Route 134, LA Palmdale. Okay, that's our study corridor and some of the features around that corridor. Those are the different alignments coming out of Union Station to the north and on toward 134. Key constraints in that corridor are shown there. And
You go just a little slower because there's a lot of people behind you.
We're hurting people, sir.
I know. Okay, key constraints.
Okay.
And is all this on your website, or is any of this on your website?
Yes, and we did hand out the
Okay.
actual.
Do you have extra handouts here if someone wants to? So there's handouts in the back if anybody may need them. All right, keep going.
It's on our website.
Yeah.
Those are some of the key constraints in this corridor from the LA to Palmdale corridor. That's the pink line shows us coming out of elevated Union Station along the east bank of the river. It shows the bridges and where we would go adjacent to crossing the Arroyo Seco.
Let me see that. I'm going to figure out exactly where we are.
All right, Union Station and 101 is on your left side.
Right.
The pink shows how we would come out of Viaduct headed north toward.
Right, on the east side of the river.
We're on the west side of the river coming out of the city.
Yeah, but then you go to the east side.
Yes, we will cross
Yeah.
over. We'll cross over and follow the east bank of the LA River. Go on. And that's a different alignment going up the west bank of the LA River. That's us continuing on toward the Metrolinx.
So either go up the old Southern Pacific line, which is right parallel to San Fernando Road, or following the existing new line. Now, would this be buried?
It would be in the next slide. Be in the trench.
Okay, what would be on top of the trench? So you could bury it.
In
Okay.
sections, depending on, right, we
All right.
have to leave certain portions of it open for fire life safety reasons.
Well, yeah, but they cover some other things in other towns. You could look at, you figure it out.
Uh-huh.
I think what would be, and not making any, and talking to my colleagues, they'd like to see, take advantage of the park that's there and not have this impact them. And I believe in conversations, you would combine Metrolink, Union Pacific lines and trying to straighten it all out.
I think that's the
Amtrak.
goal. There's a lot of discussion still going on with Metrolink in terms of operations, but we're all
Right.
trying to move in that same direction.
Got it.
There are details.
Who owns that right away?
It-
Union Pacific?
Metro.
Union Pacific?
Metro.
MTA owns it.
Metro does it, own it? Okay.
Is there anyone from Metro here to confirm that?
Well, I know Art Henry. Metro owns that? How much does Metro own it out, for the record, so everybody knows? I thought Union Pacific owned it. You, for the record, if you could come up here just for the record, because this is a public meeting, just say into the microphone and introduce yourself. Yeah.
Hi, Alex Calameros, Metro. We have
Metro like Art
Metro,
Leahy?
that's right. That's
Okay, good.
right. We were not planning to give a presentation.
No, I just need to know the facts.
We Metro owns a significant amount of land along the west bank of the LA River.
Got it. But including the right-of-way, the train that goes out now, underneath the tracks of the Amtrak Santa Barbara train.
Could not tell you specifically, but
Okay.
we'd be happy to.
I
do
think it's
that.
Union Pacific, friends, but you'll find out by the next meeting. Yeah, thanks. I got it. I know, okay. Got it. Thank you, continue, thank you.
Okay, the blue line shows where we'd be at grade running adjacent to San Fernando Road. And that's a summary, which talks, go ahead.
This is just a summary of LA, basically the LA station on up through the SR 134. And then in looking at next steps, again, we are continuing to do our outreach to corridor cities. We're looking at having our stakeholder working group meeting soon, city council briefings, community open houses. Our draft project level EIR, EIS is due out spring 2010 with public hearings soon to follow. By winter 2010 is when we need to be able to certify our final EIR, EIS with a record of decision by spring of 2011. Now, here's the element. This winter 2010 is a key date because there's been a lot of questions about, at what point do we stop shifting our alignment? At what point do we stop tweaking our alignment? At what point can we no longer look at various stations, ... We can make a lot of adjustments, frankly, up until we certify our final EIR, EIS.
Very good.
And there you go. There's our contact information.
Okay, thank you. And all this is available on your website?
Yes.
And anybody sees it? There's copies of this at the back if anybody wants to see it. Okay, now, everybody's here, okay? And I only have 3 cards, so I'm going to advance to have 2-minute, or if you need a little more time, take it on your comments. And if we could find another chair, Ms. Kim, find another chair for right here, if you would. So if they have any questions, they can direct to you as well in sharing this here. Cecilia Estelano. You want to sit out there? Hey, you can sit over there sit over there.
Thank you, Councilmember Labange. Celia Solano, representing the Community Redevelopment Agency, and Don Spivak and I are going to tag team this a little bit. Want to thank you guys for coming to the committee. As you know, CRA LA has been just intensely interested in this project for a number of reasons. One, it runs through a number of our project areas. Two, it runs right through the middle of the clean tech corridor, for which we're the lead for the city of Los Angeles. And three, we have been very strong supporters of the LA River Master Plan and are really, in a sense, hosting the River Revitalization Corporation. So this could be a wonderful catalytic project for all three of those initiatives if it's handled appropriately, or it could, quite frankly, devastate all three of those initiatives. So we're here to say that we've had a very good working relationship with the rest of our city family. The staff level have been working very intensively, have looked at some different alignments. We're mindful of the need to move forward. We do secret documents all the time. We understand that. But it's important that we get it right. And so Don Spivak and our team have put together a draft alignment that is not the West Bank. Neither is it the elevated Union Station proposal. It's somewhere in the middle, and Don Spivak's going to run through it. The reason we want to put it forward, we understand you would rather keep this to one main proposal, but we're experienced with CEQA and NEPA as well. If you really only have one alternative, you have no alternative. And although it might slow you down a little bit to look at an alternative, right now you have 15 months, you have more than enough time to look at this alternative. If you don't give it a fair hearing, somebody's going to sue you anyway, so you might as well take a look at another alternative. Don, why don't you run through it?
Thank you. Don Spivak from CRA. We've had a couple of meetings that have involved city staff, including DOT, General Services, and City Planning, which has prepared the report that is part of today's presentation. And one of the things that we talked about was an alignment that was on the east side of Union Station, roughly along Vigna Street. We looked at an alignment in Vigna Street to minimize the intrusion into the area north of the Artist District and to smooth the curve going north out of Union Station. One of the barriers you run into that makes it difficult to use Vigna Street itself is the location of the Central Jail Complex. So we looked at an alignment that was just slightly east of that, but still within walking distance of the east portal, that from the south is a smoother curve coming off the existing railroad tracks, roughly follows Center Street on the south side of the 101, penetrates through to an area that is east of Union Station and then proceeds north, crossing the river, avoiding the winery on the north side as it exits Union Station. We're going to be obviously testing this further with other city staff, checking the vertical alignments as well as the horizontal alignments to see how workable this is. But this is a first pass at looking at something that follows the conversation that we've had at the city level.
Now, if you could point out to our folks who are here so they can see that, because there's no slide. Walk in the middle of it.
And again, the idea is we appreciate the collaborative effort the commission staff has done.
Piper Technical Center. Yes. Right. Okay. So it's not Vigna Street.
It would take out Piper Tech, but it is a much smoother alignment, and it saves a lot more opportunities for redevelopment, which I think is what we're all aiming at. We want to see a real win for an economic development.
You want to know my personal problem? What is one of the biggest mistakes Los Angeles has made, other than killing the red car? Anybody name
There's
it?
so many, Councilman.
Come on, I got five. I got one hand. One hand. Out of one hand, you got to get it. No, losing the NFL. Okay, very good. Mr. McAdams? Channelizing the LA River. Okay, anybody go to LAX? That's a clue?
The green line.
Green line stopped, okay. My problem with all our thinking is these must, I'm just saying from my experience, should be like this mic stand. This is, on the bottom is the subway system, on the middle is the metropolitan trains and Amtrak, and on the top, or wherever you could do it, is. Now, I've been to France, and the TGV comes right next to the local train, but on a different track. Mm-hmm. Have you ever looked at doing the same aerials that the Gold Line does in the Union Station, instead of going above the sheds, but going at grade?
Yes, we have, but with our 6 tracks and 6 platform edges, we don't have enough space laterally to fit in 6 additional platforms and trackage adjacent to the Gold Line without having severe impacts to the Metro building or to the...
How many tracks they got down there? They got 2 for the Gold Line.
12?
Yeah, I believe it's 12.
12?
12?
Yeah.
Anyway, I think this is the time to look at everything, but I will just tell you from my point of view, absolutely, if you're if you're on top of Vigna Street, at Center Street, in between the MTA where Peter Shire has his artwork,
right?
On top of that street, right in front of Art Henry's office there at the MTA, I could see something there because I was going by Felipe's the other day, and I remember I was at Water Power when We worked with then Councilman Mike Hernandez on the alignment and down from what was then the cornfields of the goal line in there and that viaduct. But anyway, I think it's important you look at this stuff. But I think when we look at it, and I think we should be thorough, whatever we look at, we should try to look at it within 45 days. I mean, we've got to work.
Agreed.
And that may mean that everybody who's in this room who's interested is on a trolley over there looking and saying, okay, agree to disagree, and move forward so we move consensus. We can, if we don't do it right, trip up, and somewhere else in the country, the federal government will say they got it together in Chicago or they got it together in wherever it would be.
Yeah, and I think, Councilman, the key is that the departments have been working very closely together. This is something we're going to be talking with the departments on. Just, it's worth the discussion. Nobody
Would you
wants
put
to
it down the
split
middle of the street? No, above. If it's a viaduct, it's above.
It's above. But it opens up the river a lot more. It also opens up economic development opportunities a lot more. But again, it's something
But
where
we have what do we do with Piper Tech, though? And who replaces it?
relocate it.
Yeah, who pays for it? Yeah, see? That's very good. That's a good way to do it, Cecilia. That's why you're the
Obviously, it's a
director.
trade-off.
Okay.
It's a trade-off among other properties that would have to be acquired that would also have to be paid for.
Right, okay. Right, whatever the case may be. But I think this is why, and I'm just telling everybody in this room who's interested in this, it's real key. It's real key that we come together with a plan that everybody can agree and try to make with sense. I just believe that I was here when, and Mr. Bradley, when they made the discussion on the Green Line that we all know was really unacceptable. But the CRA, I thank you for that. And so make a formal letter to the High-Speed Rail Authority. Yeah. Got it. Okay, good. Super. Thank you, Cecilia. Dr. Clyde Williams. Just for the record here, just before you start, how many have been on a high-speed rail in the world, if you just raise your hand? So a few of us have. Okay, good. Just about 40%. Okay, thank you.
Good afternoon. My name is Dr. Clyde Williams, El Sereno. Try NATM, New Austrian Tunneling Methods, which have been used throughout quite a bit of Europe for trains and high-speed trains with very little cover. Part of my background is construction of the Red Line Phase 1, Union Station to the Yard. So I know the area quite well. We had quite a bit of trouble there. However, there could be an alignment on the east side of the Piper Center.
Piper Tech.
Between the concreted channel and the Piper Center.
Piper
also,
Tech.
consider that the Piper Center has largely the parking areas on the east side of the building. So there may be room there. There will be considerable problems with groundwater, H2S in the groundwater, and even hydrocarbon from the old coal gasification plant site. That was part of Piper Center and to the 101. As long as it's on the net, I will look at the other stuff. There's also a matter as how does this relate to the information technology resolution 0002 S179, which is this one here, which is coming up tomorrow. So that's all.
Thank you very much, Dr. Clyde Williams. Okay, just want to ask one technical question to the clerk. On item number 5, can we combine any of these here?
Item number 5 actually has a report. Item number 4 does not.
Okay, the
you
report
need to
from the
accept
planning department? Okay, good. Thank you very much. Louis McAdams.
I'm just here listening, but I had a question.
For the record, Mr. McAdams, if you could. But
Yep.
microphone, I know you got that. It's okay. Now let me introduce the first friend of the Los Angeles River, Louis McAdams.
I'm just have a question really for the high-speed rail people. I keep looking at this and I keep seeing that one of the most flood-prone places along the Los Angeles River is where the river curves south, and that's why all the houses, all the old stuff from before the river was channelized, everything's up on stilts. It seems to me I'm asking the question, but it seems like that you're talking about putting train tracks right at the most flood-prone part of the LA River system, and which is what led to the channelization and the concretization of the river in the first place. And I have heard in a couple of different sources that the high-speed rail authority's position on that is to build some kind of a concrete barrier along the river between, to quote-unquote protect the land nearby, such as St. Vincent de Paul, such as the livable housing, which is now Lee Development, all that area, which would then be, as far as I can see, and I'm really asking if I'm just misseeing this, this would be a huge concrete barrier that would cut off that whole part of the city and those neighborhoods, which we're calling the Park District, from the river. And I'm
This
just
would be, let's say, from the Arroyo Seco south all the way past Mission
essentially,
Station.
yeah.
Right. Do you know where that is?
Yes.
Okay. Is that true?
I don't believe we have plans to put a large concrete,
Currently, we have no plans to put a concrete wall up between us and the neighborhood.
Where would you, the existing tracks that are on by Lincoln Heights Jail, you know where that is? The old jail?
I need streets.
Okay, Avenue 19.
Okay.
And North Broadway?
Yep.
Okay, where it all comes there.
Mm-hmm.
Would you be at grade down back on top of the riverbank, or would you be still up in a viaduct?
We would be in a trench in the yellow section, and as we reach the 110, we would go into an at-grade configuration and then back down into a trench.
Let me just, for the record, so we have it here. We can see here so everybody knows. This here is elevated viaduct.
That's correct.
This goes into a trench?
That's correct.
How deep?
It varies.
Would it be like 40 feet deep?
30.
Like out on Alhambra, where have you seen that by the Mission?
Yep.
So it's like Alameda Corridor.
Right.
Okay. Could you cap it at all? You could landscape the top.
Yep.
You could bring the people to the riverbank
Yes.
if it was there.
Yes.
What was that? Oh, one of those things. I saw that, James Bond. Huh? Okay. So right there. So this would be important. Now, what would be here?
At grade.
At grade.
Right.
Because now this is where you may be talking, Louis. This is right here, North Broadway, right here.
Right.
So could that be trenched? Why would it not be trenched? You got the Arroyo,
Right.
so you got to come up and go over the Arroyo,
Right.
go to the other side and come back here. Okay.
Can you go, how high can you go there?
We got to get under the freeway.
So essentially, that area will be cut off from the river.
It'll be at grade.
Yeah, well,
It will
that's.
be what it is today. cut
Right.
off
Yeah,
from the
essentially
river.
so.
Right.
Right.
It seems like this is an area that needs to be thought through a little bit.
Okay, and
That's all, that's all.
Thank you very much. That's important to look at that. I think there's passion here with everybody in this room to try to. Everybody, I think, supports the technology of moving people quickly and safely, but to take the opportunity of this major public works project and do what you can to enhance the goals of what this committee is all about, of bringing people back to the river and looking for ways to do that. And I think there needs to be a lot more comment on that. So I'm going to call this item and hold this on the desk to the next meeting, which is October 19th. I would suggest you continue your dialogue with everybody, and anyone who has a specific group that's here, whether it's planning staff, a downtown neighborhood council, a Friends of the River, whomever, meet directly with them just to start the dialogue. Because the one thing I don't want to see us do is miss the train, but I want to see us do it right, but I don't want to miss the train. Because I guess we're competing against the Northeast Corridor.
Several in the country, yeah.
Where else in the country, so we would know?
Chicago, Michigan. There's
Florida, New York, etc. Okay, in the Northeast. Very good. Okay, so the next item, we're going to hold this on to the 19th of October.
Continue to the next.
Continue the 19th of October. The next,
Anything in particular you want us to bring back by that time, sir?
well, I think you'll hear in the next item.
Okay.
I want you to answer every question that the planning department has and state what it is, and I want you to, hear what the CRA said. And also, I think in all fairness, too, sometimes if someone who comes to town, we say, oh, you got to fix all the problems of 100 years of neglect or 60 years of neglect. I can't ask you that, but I think there's ways you could improve it just in your own thinking. Everywhere you bury the train and you landscape the top and allow accessibility is a plus plus. Now we have the planning department.
This will be item number 5, and the Planning Department has submitted a written report
Right.
relative to the California High-Speed Rail alignment and station options for the City of Los Angeles. And that, by the way, has also been referred to Transportation Committee. At the time the report was submitted,
Right.
the referral process had not been completed.
Great. Okay. How you doing?
Good, and yourself?
Good, all right. Introduce yourself and
Good
let's go.
afternoon, Councilmember LaBonge. My name is Nick Marisich with the Community Planning Bureau and the City Planning Department. Here today to present our report relative to the staff analysis of the California High-Speed Rail alignment and station options for the City of Los Angeles.
All right.
And on May 6, 2009, the City Council adopted a motion of this Ad Hoc River Committee instructing City Planning to work with the Department of Transportation and other appropriate city departments to assess the impacts of the State High-Speed Rail project on adopted goals and policies of plans that fall within the proposed routes. The report before you today is the result of collaborative effort among city staff from a variety of departments, including City Planning, Transportation, Public Works Bureau of Engineering, General Services, and the Community Redevelopment Agency, to assess these alternatives in the context of city-adopted plans and policies. Staff identified 3 major policy areas for discussion relative to an assessment of potential project impacts. These included mobility and transportation connectivity, economic development, and river revitalization and access. The high-speed rail project would advance a number of city goals related to mobility and transportation connectivity with the creation of a high-speed rail station in downtown Los Angeles. However, through interdepartmental collaboration and analysis, staff has also determined that decisions about a station location and related alignments could also have varying impacts on other city objectives, including those for river revitalization and economic development.
Got it.
As described in the report, staff has concluded that the High-Speed Rail Authority should continue to explore 2 station options for downtown Los Angeles. The one described in our staff report is referred to as the Union Station East or Vignes Street option. You heard it described earlier by the CRA staff as a horizontal extension of the existing Union Station facility. Staff also believes that the authority should study additional alignments to the north and south of this potential station alternative, which could have the potential to better meet a variety of the city's adopted plans and policies, as further described in the staff report. Staff also recommends further analysis of a consolidated trench option for portions of the alignment along the river, between 1st Street and 7th Street, and from the Metrolink Bridge north of Union Station to the 110 freeway. The high-speed rail alignment travels directly adjacent to the river through these corridors, and trenching would allow for the city to advance goals of river revitalization and improved connectivity with adjacent neighborhoods. The primary areas of possible policy conflict that staff has identified in the report are in conjunction with potential aerial alignment segments. The location of aerial track segments should be carefully analyzed for impacts to adjacent and surrounding land uses and for the potential to introduce physical or visual barriers that could impede future economic development or reduce the quality of the pedestrian environment. By way of some brief background, on June 15th, City Planning staff provided this Ad Hoc River Committee with an oral update on the status of the high-speed rail project, and there were questions raised at that meeting as to why potential station and alignment alternatives were not being carried forward into the environmental review process. There was concern also expressed about a lack of written record of formal city input. As a result of this feedback, the Department of City Planning sent a letter to the Rail Authority on August 4th, asking them to consider continued evaluation of the West Bank trench station alternative that was identified in their alternatives analysis report. The letter also notified the authority that city staff were reviewing
Let me just ask you a question.
Yes.
That means the city planning department doesn't think that everything should be in a line. It could be off-line, meaning how do you connect what they're trying to do with Union Station?
What we also said in the letter was that we were reviewing possible additional station options for further consideration. So we were looking at we were looking at the 3 options that they studied in the report: the aerial station at Union Station, the West Bank trench alternative adjacent to the river, and the
Which
deep
West
line.
Bank is what? Piper Tech?
It's on the eastern edge
Got
of
it.
Piper Tech.
Yeah, Piper Tech. Okay, good. And then the other one was deep trench underneath the red line.
Yes.
Right.
And so in the time since the August 4th letter to the Rail Authority, staff from a number of city departments have met to discuss project alternatives, including those not yet studied by the Rail Authority, and identified this Vignes Street option described in the staff report. Staff recommends that this station option be forwarded to the Rail Authority for their consideration and assessment as part of the city's comments on the draft alternatives analysis reports. The city's comments will help to determine what is studied in the project's draft EIR, which is currently under development. So in conclusion, the staff requests that the council provide further direction as follows. Direct staff to continue working with the California High-Speed Rail Authority as a participating agency. Direct staff to continue working with city departments to explore the possibility of a Union Station East / Vignes Street Station option. Direct staff to continue working with other city departments to provide a formal comment letter to the California High-Speed Rail Authority on the recently released draft alternatives analysis reports. And direct the Department of City Planning to work with the Department of Transportation and their consultant to prepare comments on project alternatives and develop feasible mitigation options. Staff is available to answer any questions you may have about the report and to provide you with additional information that you may need.
Yeah, did you look at anything in the history on the Gold Line and the viaduct that came in off of what was then the cornfields and the aerial that goes from the cornfields through what is the edge of Chinatown?
We didn't look at the history of the planning of that viaduct, but we did compare the type of structure that was built for that project with what would be proposed for a viaduct to support high-speed rail tracks. And the rail tracks, particularly south of Union Station, were described as approximately 50 feet wide, 65 feet in the air, which would be compared to the light rail tracks that we see in Chinatown, something considerably larger.
Right. Well, look at the file. Somebody did the work. Somebody who sat in that chair did a lot of work. You should research and just see if they have any ideas.
Absolutely. Thank you.
Okay. How are you?
I'm well, thank you.
Good. Who's the first person you met on your first day of the job?
Councilman Tom.
Oh, no, that's right.
Then
Good to see
working
you.
for the DWP.
Right, exactly. So, okay.
How are you?
I'm okay.
Good. I'm just here to support. I think I just wanted to make one clarification. This is Patricia Diefendorfer. I'm also with
Yes.
Planning Department staff. I think what we wanted to be sure to explain, really make sure we were explaining here, is that really we're trying to make sure that the High-Speed Rail Authority studies two station options. Every environmental impact report typically has two options that are fully developed that decision makers can use to make decisions moving forward. That's really the main objective, and the various city departments who've been meeting fairly regularly to collaborate on this, that's been a common theme. When we wrote the letter, the August 4th letter, we had not yet sort of come to this possibility of what we're calling the Union Station East station, the station that Cecilia from CRA just discussed. So in that letter, we asked the High-Speed Rail Authority to, our main objective was to ask them to study two station options. And at that time, we asked them to continue to study the aerial station above Union Station and the West Bank station, because those were the two options that seemed most viable. After much deliberation and talking with the different departments, we've come to this idea of potential for a station that would be somewhere between the Union Station and the what they called the West Bank station. So a station that would be located somewhere in between the two. And again, with the objective of having a second station option to keep our options open as a city and to explore ways to have another option and alignments both north and south that reduce the potential impacts to both the river and the communities. The biggest concern being the aerial alignment that would go through sort of the northwestern part of Little Tokyo and the Artist District. Did I say that right?
Yes.
Yeah. So those were really the main objectives. And this idea of what we're calling the Union Station East station, which is the station that would be east of Patsoras Plaza, is something that we have not really presented formally to the High-Speed Rail Authority. So one of the things that we're asking the committee to do is to direct us to try to offer them that as a possibility for them to study and to explore further.
Right. Have you ever studied the Green Line and how it fails at LAX? I'm just saying, it's so far away from the investment is the subway that's there. Okay. Now I thought about this a lot, and I drive around a lot, and I look at it. I even thought of even if we wanted to study something, which is radical, because Union Station is one of my top buildings in my top 5 of LA, including this building, the Observatory, the Coliseum, the Central Library. All that being said, you know where the subways sleep at night?
Right.
At 4th Street? Have you looked at anything there?
We have talked. We have had some meetings with. We had a meeting with Metro to talk about this alternative, talk about alternatives that would be potentially viable. And there was some discussion of what could be done through that segment where the Metro rail surfaces between the 101 freeway and 4th Street.
Right.
The Metro, as I recall, Metro expressed an interest in the future to bury their tracks to provide increased connectivity to the river through that area, but I don't know that there's any formal steps in place to make that a reality.
But here's the thing, and I don't know if we are, and everybody's limited in money and how much it is. Anytime you go underground, it costs more than you go above ground. We all realize that, right?
Mm-hmm. Right.
You know, and also on this deal, the relationship to how close you are. If this is the Metro red line right underneath here, the further away from it, the less we're going to connect to it. Or if this is the Amtrak or Metrolink or whatever. The only thing I would suggest, if you do study between right outside the MTA building, right in the middle of the street. I don't think we could afford to knock down the largest municipal building when built, which is Piper Tech, with all of its, to relocate it or where you'd relocate it, what the cost would be. I mean, that's probably a $1 billion operation.
Right. So, Patricia Diefendorfer, for the record,
Sure.
just wanted to add that we're very cognizant of the importance of the intermodal connectivity and having the station be as close to Union Station as possible, which is why this presents the opportunity to look at a station that would be relatively close. And in some ways, many of us see it as a potentially an expansion of Union Station because there is some concern about the capacity of Union Station to handle. We saw the numbers, I think 10.8 million passengers by 2030 using high-speed.
It's important to have a
high-speed rail.
thought, but it's also important that we do this within a time period, not drag it out or
Right.
miss the train, so to speak.
Right.
I would like to ask you to direct staff to work with the County of Los Angeles and MTA. I haven't been to the jail except once. It was raining, and there was a woman in a wheelchair, and I pulled my car over right there at Bouchette Street, and I thought she was going to see her son, and I helped her into the jail, and she had a warrant out, and she was just turning herself in because she wanted to get out of the rain. It was a fascinating morning. So that's the only time I've been to the jail. But it may be, I'm just saying this, I know the reports are about the very difficult challenges of the county facility there. Have you talked with the County of Los Angeles?
There are many conversations that still need to be had, and part of this.
I think, well, if I direct you to talk with the county, just to
Okay.
see what their long-range plan is there, because I know maybe it makes sense to have a smaller facility or regional facilities or whatever, or how beat up that building is in that whole concept there. But I think it's good to look at them. And then the MTA not only has their own office building, that's a brand-new office building, basically, but they have an MTA bus facility just across the way, which should be integrated. The buses, the trains, the subway, the high-speed rail, all should be on some very close
Right.
proximity. So because I've known you since your first day, if you look at that right in front of the station, right on top, and in some form of, I'll say Jetson fashion, you know, because of that deal, everybody's going to be impacted in this, but I think you got to look at it. So with all the things that you asked for, if the clerk could repeat them again to say you want to take your pin. Got it right there. Good job. Thank you very much. Good to see you. Give Cecilia Solano a big hand for the CRA, all right? Okay. So what we want to do, this is going to be, we're going to ask you to study this, but this is all going to come back on the 18th,
On the 19th.
on the 19th. So you got to study fast, got to work night, okay?
Very fast.
Okay, good. So if you want to read them in, just so we know what we're doing, and continue to work with city departments, explore station options and future master planning areas. Continue to work with city departments to provide formal letters to the necessary California High-Speed Rail Authority. Continue to explore the DOT and other departments, agencies, the hiring of a consultant to assist with preparations. I don't think we could hire any consultants. I want to keep city workers working. So I don't know if I want to support that.
The DOT is already working with the mayor's office on that, so that's already.
Yeah, but I'd rather keep a city worker working than hire a consultant. But we won't approve that until the 19th, right? I could still say
Yes.
no then?
Yes.
Okay, so we'll go ahead and study that, but I'm not going to say I may not support that.
Including your amendment, which is to work with the County of Los Angeles.
And the MTA.
MTA.
Well, two separate agencies on that.
So approve
Okay,
the-
and also I think you should work with the Department of Water Power, because Cecilia spoke of a green corridor, and there's the Main Street Yard, which is a significant part of the area north on Main Street. and they have significant right-of-ways that all have impact, so why not ask them to get involved? So, and I am also to thank the planning staff and the overall city departments for the work you're doing this year. So thank you for those nice things. So I think that would be good. But this is also going to be held for the week of the 19th, but you can move ahead on that. I'd like to thank you both.
Thank you.
Okay. Thank you both. All right, I'd like to ask Russell Brown, Damon, I want to say it correctly, Damon. Your last name? Say it again. Nagami. Hi, Damon. And Dr. Clyde Williams.
Thanks. Russ Brown, I'm Executive Director of the Historic Downtown Bid, which is also going to be the home of our new streetcar, which will connect to the regional connector right into Union Station. I'm also President of Downtown LA Neighborhood Council, in charge of the streetcar committee, and we're working with the group that's doing Park 101. I'm also fortunate enough that just 6 weeks or 8 weeks ago, I was in Japan at our sister city of Nagoya, taking the bullet train from Kyoto to Nagoya and Nagoya to Tokyo. The interconnectedness of their system is exactly what we need here. So it's critical that this station for the bullet train go into as close as possible Union Station and be as accessible as possible into the high-speed rail, the light rail, and even in Japan, they have bicycles, they have pedicabs, they have all the systems coming together and make it very pedestrian-oriented. I don't think people understand how much of an opportunity to be transformative this is, not only to the neighborhood itself, but how we change our lives. And this will be not only something that goes into Union Station, but will literally have impacts through every bit of the whole rest of the transit system. And I understand your concern about keeping city employees involved, but if there's critical expertise that we need to move as quickly as possible to make these decisions, I hope the city is not in a position that as we study this to death, we miss the opportunity. Somebody said that LA seems to never miss an opportunity to miss an opportunity. So hopefully we won't let this go where we're literally at the front of the line now for being the most prepared, and then we physically take ourselves out of the line as we start to go through all of this. If you look and see how far along Anaheim is on their station, we have a lot to catch up. Thanks.
Thank you. And you're with the Downtown Neighborhood Council. I have a proposal when I was on the MTA board to bring the red line from Union Station down to the yard so you could have service to SciArc and other things. Would you support that?
Sure. I think.
You ever been to San Francisco?
Yes.
You been on BART?
Yes.
Like better than half of it is above ground, and we have to look at the red line to expend that. So,
well, even with the regional connector, the whole LA River is
Right.
a missed opportunity for transit
Right.
connection.
Good. Well, thank you, Russell. Okay. Damien.
Thank you. Damon Nagami, staff attorney with the Natural Resources Defense Council. We've read the planning department's report and agree with its findings and recommendations, as well as the resolution that was authored by Councilmember Reyes to explore additional alternatives. I just wanted to say today that the whole point of CEQA and NEPA is to examine a range of alternatives and to allow decision makers to make a reasoned and informed decision. Our members are deeply concerned about high-speed rail's potential impact on the Cornfield and Taylor Yard sites. A vigorous alternatives analysis is required by law and essential to making sure that these vital community resources are protected. The High-Speed Rail Authority needs to include alternatives, all reasonable alternatives, and we recommend that they include the ones that are recommended for study by the Planning Department in the DEIR EIS.
Yeah, when you mentioned the Taylor Yard, what alternative there would be to Taylor Yard?
Say that again?
What alternative would there be to Taylor Yard as far as the corridor?
Underground. Yeah, I mean,
Well,
we think
they showed us underground, but
we think the trench idea is a good one, but I think as someone has raised before, we need to make sure that if it is going to go down San Fernando Road, there needs to be adequate access so the community can continue to actually access Taylor Yard.
Absolutely.
So that needs to make sure that that happens.
But trenched and covered.
Yeah.
Yeah. Anybody go to Reno, Nevada? They said they trenched a railroad line through the center of Reno, Nevada. Anybody going to Reno? Check it out. let me know. Clyde Williams.
Dr. Clyde Williams, El Sereno. All I was trying to do is get a resolution as to what's the difference between today's discussions and tomorrow's discussions in the information technology section, which is resolution by Councilman Reyes, Pear, and Huizar requesting the high-speed rail authority to include in its study on possible locations. Seems like
They're both, it's going to a bunch of committees, including transportation, but we'll all come back together on the 19th of
Yeah,
October?
the 19th. Actually, they're all
19th.
canceled. All council committees are canceled because of the budget issue for tomorrow.
Okay.
So that's
And
canceled.
again, you can go underground if you go between basically Vignes and the river. Going underground under Union Station because of the red line that I helped build.
What'd you do?
I was supervisor for environmental controls, and the Union Station was a real pain. Not only because the
You mean
Union
the people
Station...
who ran the Union Station? The people who ran the Union Station, Mr. Fiscal?
No, well, remember that there were 5 railroad companies involved in it.
I think
at
just
that time.
3, Santa Fe, Union Pacific, and Southern Pacific.
The RTD at that time had to...
All right.
no,
Well, they weren't a railroad
But
company.
there's also the original coal gasification plant site,
Right.
which Piper Center had to...
Piper
excavate-
Tech, right.
Piper Tech had to excavate 50,000 cubic yards of unusable fill material because it was contaminated by coal gasification residues. We had tremendous problems there, had a dewatering system that had to treat the hydrocarbons coming out.
Right.
and things like that.
Well, all right, here's the thing. All right, this completes our public comment. Thank you, Dr. Williams. Just to say to everybody, I think we're going to have this again on the 19th of October, which is about 30 days plus, 34 days. I think it's imperative that we all work together. I think it's imperative that we sometimes, and I'll talk to Mr. Reyes, have a working street meeting over there, that we sit out maybe on the MTA Patsaurus Plaza or wherever, walk it, look at it. Sometimes you get ideas out in the street that you don't necessarily get inside a building, and look at it from a standpoint. Whether we go up to the top of the Metropolitan Water Building, which is, I think, 11 stories high, and look out and see this here. I think it's real important, whatever we do, we get in a huddle. And as my coach at high school said, it's important that we all try to get to the same play and call on it and look at it. There will be impacts, but this is an important step forward. It's absolutely important for this committee to see the river vision maximized as great as possible. But we all know, next to our public safety, mobility is a #1 issue. And the thing about rail systems, it does, as Mr. Brown said, come right into a neighborhood and transform communities like you see throughout the world. So there's no any public comment, and I want to wish you all a good afternoon and thank you for attendance in the meeting. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good job. Okay.